Okay, so thank you for coming tonight. My name is Vladan Joler. Okay, you heard some of those like fancy things about me, but usually it was some kind of transformation in like last, I don't know, 10 years or 15 years that I'm doing these kind of crazy things. So basically I'm seeing myself now as some kind of cartographer, but I basically invented almost like my own way of doing cartography. So it's, I call it counter cartography. It's also a known term from before, but what I'm doing for a really long time now, it's basically investigating hidden layers of technology, because it started really random by mostly mistake, by doing some kind of cyber forensics of attacks on independent media, but also trying just to understand what's going on when you press something like on your keyboard and how those things are working. And this kind of basic question, how those things are working, it's not so easy, because like the 99.9% of everything that is happening somewhere else. So what we are seeing in our screen, it's mostly some kind of like light changing colors or whatever, but the computation, packets, these kind of planetary scale systems are somewhere else, no? So during the let's say like 15 years, I tried to develop different kinds of like methodologies, and when I say methodologies, those are not usually like methodologies, like some kind of serious methodologies that you can find in science. So because I'm not a scientist, I'm seeing myself more on some kind of space in between. So I do whatever I can in order to investigate hidden layers of technology, no? And so first we were like doing some kind of investigations of like networks, how the networks looks like. Then behind networks we were like trying to find where are those like data centers being located, and then what is happening inside of the data center, what is happening inside of the server, and then at the end what is happening inside of the algorithm. So at the end, this I think this kind of group of talks that you will hear tonight, it's called like the algorithms of power. So my first map that I'm going to show you, it's about Facebook, and so each of those maps, sorry for the people who already like saw some of those maps, because like I do one map every 2 years, you know? So in life I did like 5 of them, so I don't have too many images, but those maps are too complex and too crazy and too slow to develop. So this is what you get, no? So the first one, it's called Facebook Algorithmic Empires, and I'm going to show you this one because it is about algorithms. So we try to find a way how to investigate what's going on inside, and this is really not an easy task. So we try to do some kind of data scraping of the interfaces in order to find like all the types of data that are entering into this system. And behind each of those lines, there is like some kind of investigation, no? So it's some kind of like, in my mind, you have like some kind of unknown mosaic that you need to make. So you are finding different ways how to resolve each of those lines, each of those like dots on this map, no? So for example, here on the left side of the map where are the inputs into this kind of factory, I call it factory, the Facebook is some kind of factory for extraction of data and transformation into something else. So we did some kind of scraping. Also on the other side, it's like how they are selling this. We did also this kind of scraping of some processes of creating ads. But the most mysterious part was like inside of this, like how we can try to understand what kind of processes exist. Because if we think about Facebook as some kind of factory, what is the floor plan of this factory, no? So we did like analysis of, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of different, I think there is like 3,000 publicly available patents. And why I'm saying you this map, for example, even if it's like almost like now like 10 years old, this is the only map that I saw in my life of the algorithmic process of such a big system, no? And somehow in one moment, because almost 10 years ago, it was really popular, something that was called algorithmic transparency, and it was part of this kind of fancy EU, gatherings, and now we are going to do that, and it became part of many papers and many directives and stuff like this. But at the end, we have no clue what's going on inside. And why it's important that we know, because all of those things that are happening inside of these black boxes are defining like what is going to happen to us. So, for example, what we are going to see, which kind of informations are being presented to us, and so on. All of this. So basically, I like to think about what's going on inside as some kind of so it's a reality show that is being presented to us. But the directors of this reality show is bunch of algorithms and bunch of statistical processes and so on, so on. So from our position, so why all of those things that I'm is it me? No. So why I'm calling this counter cartography, because this is coming from someone who is outside of the black box. So now I'm trying to find a way how to see inside, how to see those algorithms. And this is why it's counter cartography. Cartography usually is coming from the position of power. It's kind of like, this is my kingdom, this is my company, this is how you should behave, this is organizational chart, and you should always listen to the white guy on the top. So this is a completely different process. I'm trying to find a way how to see those things, and now why I'm speaking about this, because if we speak about algorithms of power, we have no clue. Why? Even I spent 2 years doing this map and trying to understand what all of those little things are doing. So we found a way how to investigate patterns, but you never know those patterns are really there in this machine, because this machine, it's always changing. So maybe you find some clue, and maybe you investigated something and said, okay, they are using this algorithm, but the main problem is okay, maybe it was used just for 2 seconds, and now some other guy just tuned it in a different way. So you are seeing something that is so complex and it's constantly changing. So this is the main problem of trying to map this process. It's that you are mapping impossible. Another thing is so you even tiny changes in those systems are so, for example, you have really famous crash of stock market in United States. It was called the flash crash, I think. And it's some kind of event in which several algorithms some kind of clashed, and they result of that was collapse on the stock market that lasted maybe 1 minute. But again, they needed a days or months to recover from there. But then they try to do investigation of what happened within those algorithms, why this thing happened, and they spend 2 years in order to understand what happened during those 2 seconds. So what we are seeing here is almost impossible to investigate. It's almost impossible to. So when we speak about algorithms of power, the main thing that we should know, it's we don't have an idea of how they work and what they work. And then there is another important question here. Even if we do, if we want to understand what is the social impact of some settings, of some algorithm, we will need then 10 years in order to do some research, in order to understand what will be the impact of that. So for example, if you say, we want more cats, or okay, we are not going to say we want more cats, we want more cats, we want less blood. So in order to understand what more cats will do to us as a society, we will need to study this relation and stuff like this, and this is not going to happen because all of those algorithms and things are changing constantly all the time. And it's not just one algorithm. Here we are speaking about thousands and thousands of different algorithms, different systems doing some things, creating some things that we don't know how they will influence our life. But the main question here is like who is fine-tuning those algorithms and how they're being fine-tuned, and fine-tuned for what? So they are basically fine-tuned for the guy who is running this, not just one guy, but like a bunch of people who are investors, so this machine is being tuned in or tuned up for a creation of profit. This machine is not made to make better society, This machine is made to make more profit. So if your reaction to some algorithm or whatever is more engagement, you will be tuned up and stuff like this. So this is the problem that we are seeing here. And even for the last 10 years, we never saw any of those maps that are basic. Even according to GDPR, Facebook and other companies should do that. Okay, should give us in some kind of visual, understandable way explanation how those systems are working. And for me, the way to do it is to present me the map, but it never happened. There is another problem here. If we zoom in, again, you have so the core, the heart of this system, it's called the social graph, And for me, it's like really exciting because it's like kind of like a map that you, as someone who is like into cartography, maps are kind of exciting, So this one, it's made of every click, every node, every photo, ever published. So whatever exists on Facebook, it is one node in this territory, in this map. So those territories are so immense. That's billions and billions and billions of nodes and whatever. They are not made for human beings to understand. So there is like a threshold in which we will never, those spaces, those territories are not made for us. They are made for other entities such as AI systems or algorithms to crawl over this space and to extract some knowledge and to turn this into profit and so on and so on. And then I did like many other maps, but I want just maybe to jump to this one that I did with Matteo Pasquinelli, because for me it helped me. This one is called Dinoscope, and it helped me to understand maybe what is the difference. And I think I'm speaking this as some kind of introductory talk for something that will come later. I hope so, some deeper jump into it. What is the difference between algorithm and AI systems? I think this is like maybe important to understand. Algorithm at the end, it's a rule, So if this, then that, but really complex rule, really complex, it can go really complex. But just to go back on the previous one, also the question, okay, if we have like thousands and thousands of algorithms that are basically rules, who is making those rules? This is like, and making for what? So for example, if we compare, let's deconstruct this and maybe speak about like a basic social algorithm or algorithm that we can see every day on the street. So for example, you have a green light, red light, street, how do you call this, semaphore? Semaphore? Okay. So this relation, if the for cars there is longer red light, or like, the amount of second that red and green are changing, it's a relation between cars and pedestrians. So are you in favor of cars or you are in favor of pedestrians? So it's a kind of political question. The number of seconds on this semaphore, it's like political question, like who will be prioritized, Then we have another simple algorithms, say like a pension system, If work 65 years, then according to this number equals that amount of money. Okay, but how we are making this algorithm? You have a parliament, maybe you have like elections, and then you go on to election, you vote for some people, and those people are there for you, and they're saying, okay, we are going to change this into something else. So usually in society, in democracies, we should we make decisions through some process in order to create a social algorithms on how our lives are going to function. But here, inside of this system, there is nobody who is, did anyone ask you something? No, it's just like enforced on you. So it is a totalitarian algorithmic society or system that we are getting into, no? But the thing with AI, I think it's a bit different. So we can think about algorithm as being a rule. If this, then that, plus 153, no? In AI, it's another regime. So algorithmic regime, it's a regime of orders. It's a regime of mathematics, it's the regime of rules. AI regime, it's a regime of statistics. It's a regime of fuzzy statistical spaces. So how the process of creation of AI looks like is that like you take a lot of data, a lot of images of a tree, for example, and then you take these, then you make some kind of folders, then you tag all of those things, then you put inside of some like process of training. This process of training, compress this into some kind of model. This model is consisted of all of the trees, and you are getting some kind of statistical approximation of the tree. This is the model. And then this model will be able to say, is this a tree or not, or will it be able to project the tree or whatever. But then in this process, if you try to deconstruct this process, you see a lot of decisions, like human decisions or non-human decisions, but there is a lot of decisions on the way. Like, for example, who made the photos of the tree? How big is the data set of the tree? Who is going to label all of those trees and to distinguish one tree from another and stuff like this? And so here we are speaking about something that's called bias. You know? And now there is like this problem, like there is like many different types of bias. You know, because the idea is this: all this stupid machine eat all of those images. You know, they eat and digest all of those images, and it basically stays in this statistical space of those images. So that means if I feed this system with, I don't know, that type of images, or like only with for example, white people, it will just recognize white people. No, if I feed this with only doctors that are male, it will just project the idea that all the doctors are male, and so on. So decision, like what is important, it's this kind of like a training data set, what we are feeding into this thing. Another important thing, it's like how we are classifying things, because like classification systems are super important. Like classification system is like how we are cutting the world, how we are naming the world, how we are doing all of this. So the most of this discussion about AI ethics, it's about like how we can speak about data sets, how we can speak about training data sets, and maybe how we can create something that is called like an ethical training data set. But if you go a bit like philosophical into that direction, the question is always like, is that even possible? What will mean, like, so for example, if we speak about gender, if we speak about many different forms of bias that we have, like who is the person who will decide what is okay? What is representation that is okay? It's okay according to whom? So there is always somebody who will project its own world of view into this data set. The main problem of this is when we are starting to project those data sets and those AI systems to the whole world, no? But then when you go deeper into this, and this now it's going to be more and more abstract. So most of these kind of like AI ethics people, they're into this, like how we can make an ethical data set. But for me, the another thing that was like really interesting, it was like a process of training, process of compression. Because with every step of this training, you are basically cutting the anomalies of those systems. You're saying, okay, all of those like bit different trees or different people will be eliminated, because process of training, it's a process of compression. When you are doing compression, you are basically eliminating all the time anomalies. So then if you start to think, what are the anomalies of the system, of whatever, most of the time anomalies, it's us, artists, people who are different, people who are like different anyway. Because all of those like compression is going towards some kind of statistical optimum, no? So if we think like philosophical about this or politically about this, this is super political question, because like AI systems are optimizing societies toward some kind of statistical totalitarianism. Why? Because everything will need to go toward this optimum, toward this middle of a statistical curve. Everything will become the same. Like, for example, if you go to Venice, you know, all the things, the shops are dying, and they're all becoming, you know, this kind of like Murano glass shops and tourist shops. This is the process of statistical optimization toward the optimum of what is like extraction from the tourist, no? And it's the same thing with the AI system. The main problem is once we compressed all of this into the AI model, then we are going to project this to the world. You know? So we are going to apply this to the world. So if all the doctors are male, all the doctors in the future are going to be male, according to this. And what is super weird is like those systems are now becoming, not that they have a power just to say this is this, this is that. This is like classification AI. Those systems are now becoming like machines for hyperproduction of the content. So our world is going to be populated by those prejudices, by those biases. They're going to be, and this is now this like a question of like human versus this artificial. Artificial is much faster, spreading much faster. So our world, our images, our truth is going to be contaminated by the things that we put inside of this. So the main question is who is going to choose what is going to be inside of this new norm? Who is going to decide what is the truth? And then, again, to come back about the relation between algorithm. Algorithm, it's a rule. And maybe we can have a deal, what is the rule that we want to imply. But this is statistical management. You know, everything will be done according to the statistical norms. So we are getting into the age of statistical societies. No? So the main problem here is not, so if you even think this, and now I'm going into this madness of the big map, and I'm not going to go further because like the map is down, so you will continue there. If you even think like what would be the most ethical way, it's to take all the books in the world, no? And to put inside of this model, and then this model will have all the knowledge. But then you can ask a question, who was able to write the book in the past? And who was the editor in the past? And who had enough money to have a book, to print a book, to make an archive? Who went all around the world and steal all the objects from other people and put inside of their archive or a museum and stuff like this? So that means that all of those systems, it's not that they are just contaminated by the present. They are also contaminated by the past, because they are just going to be a reflection of the past, from the relation of the past, like it going to be reflection of the colonial relation. So this is this like, even if we take everything that we have, it's going to be reflection of the past, and not just is going to be this, is going to be amplified, because this is machines for automation. So in this map, crazy map down, we try to do this kind of like deep dive into history of machines that are creating images, created, so 500 years of photography, of like media and other, like all of them, is history of data collection, history of infrastructure, history of algorithms that are going to decide our future, history of hardware that is going to compute our future, and we wanted to mirror that on a basically how those systems are now being embedded in all of our systems of control, not their system of control, policing, borders, military, because they're all first being invented there and being mass used there. So if you think from where the AI came from, it came from military. If you think from where the internet came from, it came from military. If you think from where the first time was photography mass use for making photographs of the people, it is on the jails and borders. So this is always something that, so what I'm inviting you is to have this kind of like a critical overview of all of those like invisible and visible relations that are surrounding, that are embedded in those technologies historically in the present day, but also to ask, always to ask, like who made this? How this is being made? What kind of power relations are embedded in this thing? How those data sets looks like and who choose those data sets, from where they're coming from historically or whatever, because what we put inside is going to be the projected on our world, and it's going to rule our world according to that relations. Okay, thank you. Yeah, okay.